My name is Thomas Jackson, and I was in the U.S. Army, and I served from 71 to 73 in the final days of the Vietnam War. And when I first went into the military, I did my basic training in Fort Knox, Kentucky. And a lot of the people that I ran into there had never had even come in contact with a black person, let alone a person in the military. And when I went to AIT, I was stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and that's home of the 82nd Airborne and the Green Beret. I was stationed between the two of those entities, but when you first arrived at Fort Bragg, during that period of time, it was an open fort, and the first thing that greeted you when you first got to the fort was a big billboard that said, "Welcome to the home of the KKK." And on this big billboard sign entering the Fort Bragg military installation, it also stated that this is the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan riding a white horse with a hood on. So during those period of time, I'm sure that's changed since then. That was definitely something that stuck with you. I would never forget that, seeing that. And doing service, there were a lot of preferential treatment, definitely. And I'm sure that there's preferential treatment now, probably not as much as then as of now, but you almost had to be an officer or NCO at the time in order for you to have any type of recognition. And I'm sure that even with the officers who were black and the NCOs who were black also experienced some of those personal feelings. I myself haven't to this date felt anything different that has happened. I just remember what I experienced when I was in.
Hi, my name is Billy. I was in the Navy from 78 to 81, and I'm Puerto Rican. It wasn't so easy back then because it was after the Vietnam War and a lot of, the Navy. I was in the Navy, and a lot of times it wasn't so easy. When I first went to enlist in the Navy, when the chief found out I was Puerto Rican, he tried everything he can to make sure I didn't get in, including weight and all that kind of stuff. And eventually I did make it in if I had to go over him. When things happen, Puerto Ricans were, they used to call us sticks. And I used to laugh because people might think that was derogatory when actually it was a Spanish-speaking person in charge. When the Puerto Ricans came to the United States, a lot of them did the sweatshops, and a lot of Irish people then were in charge, and they couldn't understand, so they found a Puerto Rican that could speak English, and that's who that person was. But a lot of times, I was in the Navy, and I got into a lot of fights because of my nationality. I made it through. I got through a lot of PTSD and fighting because of that. It wasn't so good most of the time. I had an instance where two guys let me down in the hold of the ship, and we started fighting for whatever reason. That's what they believed in. They were drunks anyways. By the time I got out of the Navy, and I was drummed out pretty much because of what had happened down that hole. And I never forgot it, and that was part of the cause of my PTSD, or one of the reasons why. But those two folks were always messed up and always drunk and always doing things they're not supposed to, but they were my seniors. And at first they told me if I'd said anything, they'd make sure I was drummed out of the Navy, and I did, and they did. And that's okay, we move on. And I'm proud to be a Puerto Rican. And that's all I can say. Thank you. Hi, this is Billy again. Sorry, I don't know if I asked him, but the part of that story that I didn't tell you was I was raped. So, yeah, it's hard for me to tell this story, and I was talking to other people, and they suggest I do this. And If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to call me. Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Camacho got a hold of me. Alias Ron Lone Fox here. I served in the United States Navy. I joined in 1963. My first experience was when I filled out my application that I told the recruiter that I was Indian, but also I am half white. And he told me that it was unacceptable for me to put that down, indicating that I was Indian, which I was pretty much raised as, that I would be put in, and these are his words, a nigger pool. I was kind of taken back by that remark, and I almost did not join. I wasn't forced to join. I thought we might go to war with Russia and Khrushchev 7 days after graduating. But I'm from Philadelphia. That word was pretty much the English language. And I was taken back by that. And the fact that my father and uncle, full-blooded Indians, joined the military way back in 1917. So he told me the best bet for me to get any kind of training or, I guess, more or less benefits was to put down that I was Caucasian. So I did. And I have to admit, after being in the Navy at boot camp, on duty, I watched a dozen Indian young boys, men, standing outside the duty office, and because of their religion or faith, they refused to have their hairs cut. I also had long hair when I joined in, but I kept my mouth shut, and of course I got my hair all cut off like everybody else. I watched these young Indian men stand out in the miserable hot sun in San Diego, and that to me was torture. It was terrible. And I heard from an officer saying, I'm a white officer, that this was his Navy and his rule, and they will bend to his rule. So, just hearing that, I kept my mouth shut for a long, the career of the Navy. I did a tour in Hawaii, and then I was sent to Vietnam, and I did a tour in Vietnam of 65, 66. Also my brother, he was Army. He's passed now due to Agent Orange. So, upset, seeing prejudice, I've seen the segregation. I've been treated better as a Caucasian Navy man than I would have been an Indian Navy man. So, yes, and I'm sure there's a lot of other veterans who feel like I or experienced the same situation, and I'm out now and have been. And there's no way I would ever re-up. This is insane. But I wish our kids, or my grandkids are in the service now. So I hope to God that they're being treated fairly and better than what I saw back in 63. So good luck to everybody. God bless America. God bless our veterans. I love all of you, and I thank the doctors for helping us. And hopefully somehow we had grown in the military with segregation and the prejudice. It would definitely make for a better service. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Hi, how's it going? I am Engineman Second Class Cortez. I'm a petty officer, and I served in the U.S. Navy between 1997 and 2002. I served in two ships, the USS Bridge AOE-10 and the USS Fort McHenry LSD-43. The Bridge was in Bremerton, Washington, and the McHenry was in Sasebo, Japan. My story is, I come from immigrant parents, Mexican American. I was born here. I decided to serve my country. Decided to sign up in the Navy because I wanted to see the world. I was young, naive. I didn't have much information. My parents, of course, didn't really understand. But I had a great GPA, 3.7 throughout high school. I think I was a good candidate for maybe the officer program, Annapolis. I was not offered that. My recruiters, they just put me at the lowest level, undesignated. They didn't explain it really. Me being young, I mean, I just didn't ask. I should have done that, or had a tutor, or maybe an advisor that could help me out. But I was not offered that from the get-go. But you know, that's how it goes. I come to find out later, throughout my years in the service, that some of my buddies that were behind me, you know, who were about the same GPA as I was, 3.5, 3.7, 4.0. So I mean, they got offered Annapolis and everything, you know, their education and all that. But you know, I just feel that maybe they should have, you know, hey, you got a great GPA, you're a good student, you know, maybe you're eligible for our officer program. But you know, I just wanted to put that out there. Once I went to ACE or the boot camp, I graduated. That's an E1. I designated. I didn't have a rate, so they sent me to my first ship in San Diego. It was the USS Bridge, which later moved to Bremerton, Washington. It took about a year and a half to get actually offered an A school, but immediately as soon as I got there, I was asking for an A school. I did a great job in everything I was set to do. I did notice that other of my shipmates were picked before me, even though they got there before me or after me. That were being sent to A schools, C schools. I don't know why. Maybe I wasn't doing it right, but definitely I kind of did feel left out as far as that goes.
Hello, I am a Marine Corps veteran, and I served from 2001 to 2005. I am a person who is of mixed race background. So my father was Mexican, or he is Mexican rather. He's not a citizen of America. So that's one factor in how things like shape who I am or how I identify as a person. And then my mother's background is more on the European side of things, I guess. I don't know how you would really describe that. Nonetheless, I don't really think it's necessary to get into too much of that. So I think for me, it helped me to get along with people from different cultures. I grew up in a very diverse city in Central Valley. So that was, I think, one of those things that was able to help me to connect with people. So despite some obvious appearance things, I do not look Latino necessarily. I mean, maybe somewhat, but it didn't seem obvious to people when that issue came up. Also, my family had different language barriers. So on my dad's side, a lot of my aunts and uncles and cousins and my grandma, for example, they just don't speak English. It's not their native language. So they're not able to communicate with me in that way. So that meant, communicating with them was somewhat difficult. So my aunts that did speak English would often kind of relay what I was saying. I did also lose my language abilities in Spanish quite a bit from the time I was around 5 years old. My dad, remembers that, earlier in my childhood I was speaking Spanish somewhat regularly, of course, because he spoke Spanish. So I was able to speak English and Spanish. However, once I started to enter school, my dad had to leave. He was deported at one point, but it was, there's a huge distance because of, legal circumstances for him and issues with him and my mother not getting along. So, like I said, I just didn't have anyone to speak that language with anymore, so I slowly kind of lost that ability. Okay, so this is me again, patient 109. I'm just kidding, of course, but so to finish up a little bit, I just wanted to say also that, being in the military, one of the things is my last name is clearly Latino, and so that meant sometimes explaining things to folks like, how do you pronounce your name, what background is that, and all this kind of stuff. So, that was kind of interesting, to say the least. But one of the things that I noticed too is, I think I have a lot more empathy for people of different backgrounds, and it was kind of hard to deny that in some respects, the fact that, the military, they say, oh, everyone is green, right? And that's a simplification, I think, of what people's racial background really is. And so I did notice, I think, that people were treated differently in certain respects as far as their ethnic background and what have you. And so to see that, I don't think was really a great thing to see. It was kind of troubling because I did assume everyone would be treated equally, but in some ways they weren't. And so those kinds of disparities, I think, are still real, and I think it's important to acknowledge that. So basically, I think what I would say is that there was sort of ambiguous nature for me being in the military. I think it did shape my perspective on things in a positive way. And so, I had a positive experience, I think, as far as that element of my life is concerned, because like I said, I think it kind of gave me a deeper understanding of what people go through, but also to kind of understand that something like, how you look can affect how people perceive you. Like I said, I don't look necessarily like a person of Mexican descent, but knowing that meant that I would be treated just as, an American citizen who is white. Okay, so I had to acknowledge that fact, but there were great differences there. So I'm going to go ahead and end this, but with one last thing. My brother, for example, is an American citizen who doesn't speak English, however, looks very much Mexican. And to see how he's treated in that way also shaped how I thought about things, because he was able to come to the United States, freely. However, when you see someone who looks like him crossing the border, they always had questions, even though he had the proper documentation. So.
Hello, my name is Mary. I served in the U.S. Air Force during the mid-1980s. As a black woman in the Air Force, I spent a lot of time figuring out how to navigate and where the safe spots were. I ended up spending 30 days in correctional custody because of a racist sergeant from another flight who had issue with the fact that I was a confident black woman working on the flight line, and he actually targeted me until he was able to get me in some deep waters. What I didn't understand was that the rules were different for me. I saw other people doing things that seemed like not a big deal while we were on temporary duty, TDY, but as it turns out, when you are targeted, there is no wiggle room for you. I know this because I was informed by other sergeants who were aware of the situation that was the case. They were also very much aware of this guy's tendency to put black people in their place. Fortunately for me, those same sergeants were looking out for me and understood my predicament, made me aware of it, and taught me how to navigate it and to recognize when I was in a danger zone with regards to people, places, and things in the military as a black woman. My takeaway from this was that it is important to maintain an upstanding character because it has the potential to be a saving grace in a sticky situation. And also that it's important when we as black people, people of color, are in positions of power to look out for those who may not have voice or say in the room, because there is still much work to be done. So thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for providing this space, and keep up the good work.
Hi, it's Tommy, Marine Corps, 2012, 2016. About being a veteran of color. Well, when I first joined, I was a lot of an idealist, or at least naive. And I thought the Marine Corps was a meritocracy, that no matter what I did, that was most important and defined me and would define me. Unfortunately, like a lot of folks, I realized that who I was and what the color of my skin was made a difference too. And military, at least my experience in the Marine Corps, will preach on high about neutrality and how everyone's the same. But when Black Marines or any Marine of color, female Marines as well, speak out and say, "Oh wow, this is pretty messed up over here," it's pretty much shouted down. Marine Corps, for me, reflected a lot of the society itself. The same biases, the same problems are still there. I won't get into specifics right now. I realized I had a lot to learn. I had to be particularly present in terms of things I negotiated. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about how to communicate to other people, about myself, to pay attention to other people, and navigate within that space. Oh, sorry, I'm not doing it justice right now. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.